Hi everyone, Michele Vennard here, owner of Bikram Yoga San Jose, and we're having a coffee chat. Matt Newman and Sarah Newman, staff teachers,
Hi.
and been here at Bikram Yoga San Jose. You guys for about 10 years now,
Pretty
much,
years,
right?
yeah.
That's pretty. I mean, like on more than a regular basis. Like we're in this deep, and we just thought it would be super fun to talk about a lot of the Bikram idioms that you hear in the dialogue. And then ones that you hear Bikram say, those of you that take the Bikram class kind of know some of the crazy things that he says that sound so simple or so cliche, but even though we laugh at them, they have significance. And they have like good meaning to them in how you develop in your yoga practice. So we wanted to unpack some of those today. So one of the first ones, right, that we were looking at, and there's many, right? Having means nothing if you don't know how to use it, right? And I have you guys raise your hands, but I can't see it. How many of you heard that before? Yeah. And at first you're like, especially if you're in class and you hear a teacher say it, you're probably going, what does that mean? But Sarah, you said a good thing, right? And I'll have you elaborate on that. Like, even if you don't understand it, you're going to.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's like, these are quick statements. And they are energizing when you're in the class. And maybe, like Michele says, you think, oh, it's a little bit silly. It's not silly. It's like this short, quick statement on the top of a gold mine that you can keep going into, but you don't have to think too much intellectually about it.
Yeah.
And maybe that comes later, but it comes from the good source. You know?
Yeah. That's what's good about Bikram Yoga. He keeps it simple, but yet there's such depth.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? And if you think about it, having means nothing, right, unless you know how to use it. One of the things that hits me with this is the story he talks about with the swimming pool.
Yes.
He had a house in Beverly Hills with a nice swimming pool, and it was beautiful to have, but he didn't know how to swim.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So he would always say, what good is it that I have a swimming pool if I don't know how to use it? Which is, we laugh, right? But it's so true. So if you think about like parts of your body, right, too, unless you have it, but if you don't know how to use it, you're just carrying it around with you.
I can relate to this remarkably well, because when I started doing yoga, I was tremendously flexible. And everybody, you would think that's a great thing. People come and say, oh, I'm not flexible enough to do, I'm not flexible. And I was very flexible. And I didn't really know how to use any of my body. That was like, it would go there. I had it, but I didn't know how to use it at all. You know, so it's like having, Bikram talks about the Ferrari, the car. Yeah. If you don't know how to drive it, it's not going to perform like a Ferrari.
Right. Like,
you
what good
you're
is it
living
to,
in it.
to have it, right? Too. He would say the most flexible people have the hardest time. So if you're flexible, right, and you're doing this yoga and you're having a hard time, just keep going. It will hit you, but you probably are not even aware of the muscles that you have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think we make a number of big and erroneous assumptions. The first one is that when we learnt to walk, we'd nailed walking.
Right.
We nailed legs. We nailed moving our body, and we thought that we just, from that point on, there was just a few subtle refinements, and it's not. We basically just scratched the surface of how to use the body. So what we see in the room is a lot of people who they think they're tired, or they think they lack a muscle, the power to do something, when there's boatloads of muscle power in the body. Yeah. But what's missing is simply a knowing how to use it, a connection between the mind and the body. Yeah. And you see that when somebody suddenly gets a connection and they're like, whoa, where did that come from? It was always there. Right. But you've now discovered how to use it to some extent. And so, I think it underscores that point that we have everything we need. Yeah. This isn't a journey to gain something from outside in the world that we're missing to complete ourselves. We're already complete, but we don't know how to access it. We don't know how to utilize it. And that to me is what I like about this process. It reminds me, I've already got it all. Yeah.
That's such a good point. And the reason why I'm going, because I know on my own journey, I'm going to look back on my 20 years and I tell you from where I was to where I am now is only because I have awareness to it now. And I had it, but I didn't know I had it, right? And how to use it. So you bring up a good point though, Matt, and we're always talking about this in class too. Even concentration. Having means nothing unless you know how to use it. Oh my gosh, right? We have the ability to really concentrate. And I'm telling you, how many of us use even a minuscule, right?
Yeah.
You know, of it.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, but how many of us, when we do have a moment where we use it, you feel so alive?
Yes.
Yes.
You feel human, like your ability to be an amazing human being, and you also feel contribution. I don't know about you guys, but concentration and the ability to focus when you're doing something, I think you're harnessing a gift that you have, that you in whatever you're doing, and you're able to deliver that. Without concentration, it kind of is mediocre.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I
Very much
mean?
so.
Like you're not really of service.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I'm getting even deeper here, but you know, concentration is such a huge gift.
Well, I think
right?
it's
Just the
important.
ability-
It's you know, it's know how to use it. So
Yeah.
so it's knowing how to actually use it, not knowing the theory
Yeah.
of how to use it.
Yeah.
So, for instance, like threading a needle, I sometimes give this example in the class. Obviously, I, like most people on the planet, understand the theory of how to thread the needle.
Yeah.
You take the thread, you put it through the hole, and then you pull it a little bit, and then you start using it. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I go, I got that. But if I'm not concentrating, it'll take me 5 minutes
Yeah.
to thread a needle. Is it because I lack the intellectual understanding? No, not at all.
Yeah.
I'm not concentrating, and I
Yeah.
don't have the muscle memory
Right.
that I've done it 10,000
Right.
times to really utilize it.
Right.
And so I've lacked the practice, but I have the theoretical understanding.
Right.
So sometimes people react like, I know that. You know it in the center of your brain that intellectualizes
Right.
and has theories, but knowing it in the cells of your being is a different experience altogether.
And let's add to that, because threading the needle, if you do it over and over again, that concentration power can be like that.
Yes.
And you can do it over and over again. That's why the repetition in the room is so important, because the more you practice concentration, the more you're able to turn it on from 0 to 1 to 0 to 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? And
Yes.
that's I mean, think about threading the needle, and the more you do it, the more you're enhancing that practice of good focus and concentration. And honestly, the better your life's going to be when you
Yeah.
have good
Yeah.
good concentration.
When you do standing bow, for example, and everybody around you falls out, and you have to sort of calibrate yourself, and you stay in it and you don't fall. Doesn't it feel good?
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah, it does.
And I think concentration also in the room, other things, and we all have things that we do that we love, and you can compare them with things you have to slog away at with 50% concentration.
Yeah.
There's things you naturally concentrate 99, 100%. Makes you happy, right?
It
Concentration
really
actually makes
does.
you
That's the
happy.
point I was getting
Yeah.
at too. It's kind of funny, right? How
Yeah.
it does make you feel happy,
Yeah.
joyous, right? Like
Yeah.
you're, because it's in your DNA. You're
Yes.
supposed to use
Yes.
it, right? You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we're talking about having means nothing unless you know how to use it, but just to get on concentration, it's also the other side of it too, that you can laugh at, right? And many times in standing head to knee, many times when I start to put my head on my knee, I start to think about a weird thought, like something that happened to me 10 years ago. I'm like, why am I even thinking this thought right now, right? You know, like your mind can just...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think
do
there's a
silly
connected
things.
thing to what you're saying there about concentration as well, which is another idiom that he says, or we say as teachers, which is the slower you go, you do better.
Yeah.
So for instance, me thinking, threading the needle, this is easy, bang, 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 5 minutes later going, and it's just not happening, and I'm going, bang, and it's done. But all it required was just slowing down and concentrating.
Yeah.
And same in the room. So then, sometimes you'll see a student who's, got past the first few classes, but starting to get frustrated because they're just rushing into every posture, falling out or messing it up, and then getting more and more frustrated when you just say, just slow down and concentrate.
Right.
One step at a time.
Right.
And then it will be fine.
Right. Before we move on to the other ones, having means nothing if you don't know how to use it. What were some other thoughts that we said about this when we were talking about it, you guys? Body and mind awareness, right? That too. If you don't use it, you won't have it. Awareness, right? Yeah, and the other one we must have been talking about here too, is if you're not, you guys, if you're really not using your mind, then you will fall in a state of depression. That's the other thing we were talking about here. I mean, the ability for us to use our mental strength keeps us useful and in a sense of order, right? Because if you're not aware, you can fall down a rabbit hole really quick in an unconscious way, in a way that, and all of a sudden you're like, because you haven't kind of guarded your mind, right? Or you're not, what am I really saying is that you start to believe all the thoughts you have. You don't have awareness to know, wait a minute, I have that thought, but that doesn't mean I need to believe in it. You say that a lot too, right? Like having means nothing unless you know how to use it. I mean, you got to understand how to use your mind. Otherwise, it will use you. And a lot of times it's using you, you know, in a way that you don't want it to go in, right? And then you wind up reacting to it, and you can fall in a state of depression.
Well, a classic example of that is, you know, let's say we're in Silicon Valley, so there's a lot of highly intelligent people who come to the studio just because of the demographics of the area. So then you've got this keen intellect, and you're capable of theorizing all kinds of scenarios. So let's say you have a mission, you have a goal in your mind. It's a big goal, so the gap between where you are and where you need to be is large. Do you use that intellect to enumerate all the ways it could go wrong, or use the intellect to enumerate all the ways it could go right? One of those will lead to actions you can take that will take you forward, and one of them will lead to actions that further entrench you in a state of standstill and paralysis. Same tool, the mind, same skills, intellect, and enumeration of possible futures, exactly the same skills, but dramatically different outcome.
Are you guys getting this? This is big. This is big because I think that we don't realize, again, as human beings, we have this tool, and it is a tool for us. And if we're not careful, it can run us. But at the same time, too, if we know it, look at how much we can capitalize on it. We can use it, right, for what you're saying, for these.
That's why Bikram would say, your mind is your best friend and your worst enemy. It's a tool that will cut both ways depending on how you use it.
But also that the negative thought, he says, I believe 9 times more powerful. Yes, 9 times more powerful than the positive thought. It seems quite natural to us, I think, as human beings, that we are thinking negative thoughts and thinking about how the world works. Then when somebody says, oh, you could think a positive thought instead, that maybe seems unnatural. But actually you're doing that work all the time when you think the negative thoughts. It's just become normality. And therefore 9 times more powerful because it's normal, it's habituated, you know. And then the positive thought, oh, that feels weird. But if you keep doing it, that gets habituated and you see the difference.
You know, I want to highlight that. So that's another idiom too, is Bikram will say, I just want to make sure that we have this and you guys really see the impact of this idiom. You know, he says that negative thoughts, listen to this, are 9 times more powerful than positive thoughts. Not just 1 time, 9 times. And you know, in different things that I read, right, too, that it's clear that, you know, the world can lean into chaos and negativity, right? So, and that's why I think it's a beautiful thing that we have the mind, because the more that we use it, we have to, because we have to use it to alter and get us into a more positive state. But the more you do that, and you'll do that in the yoga room, right, the easier it becomes. And then your mind is less the enemy of you and more your best friend. And I know for me, over 2 decades of practicing, I can say for sure that my mind is more my best friend than it had been, you know, many years ago. But where do you guys think that if we were to give these guys here, like, having means nothing if you don't know how to use it, where have you heard Bikram say that? Like, in your memory, do you have, and maybe you don't, but I'm just thinking, right, the many times that we've taken Bikram, like on the CD, do you
many major parts. But typically, in the class I've taken, he's typically talking about major body parts often. But also sometimes he's talking about the mind too. But, you know, it's like, if you don't use your butt muscles in triangle, it's going to be a mess. If you don't use your legs in half moon, it's going to be all wonky and weird. You know, it's like all of these sort of major parts of the body that we think, like I said, that once we started walking, we thought we understood how to use them, and we don't really understand at all. I mean, it's very amusing to me in a sort of playful way. It's amusing when I see people in the class struggle to do camel. And try and push their hips forward and go back, and then a few seconds later kind of give up. And I said, but I saw you walk in the door. I saw you stride in the door and stride down the corridor with great determination. And you were using all the same body parts that you need to use for camel. So I know they work because I saw you come in the studio using them with great determination. But now you're in camel and you're not thinking quite the same way. Coordinating. So you're not connected in the same way, so you don't know that it's the same muscles. So you don't know how to use them.
That's so big, and it sounds so trivial, But it really is true how Bikram Yoga helps you become body aware.
Yeah, and well, also I've heard him say in the film about Paramahansa Yogananda's life, where he was interviewed. Now that was all about self-realization. So
Okay,
that was
but I don't know
beyond
what he said.
having doesn't mean anything if you don't know how to use it. He said in the film that this was about self-realization. Beyond that, as Bikram would say, being at one with your Atman, your higher self.
Yeah.
So, like he would say, it all starts with the body. It starts with all these parts, but you're just talking.
Yeah.
So we've heard him say it in all different contexts, I think, and all of them. But we start in here with the body, and this is where you go.
It's funny you say that, because I feel like if you ask him to talk about self-realization, he won't. But yet he says things like this, and he knows it's the start of your path.
Yes, exactly.
To self-realization.
Yes.
When you hear something like this.
I think you were saying that the negative thoughts being 9 times more powerful than positive thoughts. It's something that he, in his words, and his teacher Vishnu Charan Ghosh, in his words, spoke to a lot, which is determination, or in Vishnu Ghosh's terms, he would say willpower.
Yeah.
But they're really two parts of the same thing.
Yeah.
That force of will, that if you want anything to happen in your life and in the world, you have to galvanize and channel and focus your willpower. And so this is one of the reasons why Bikram Yoga is so immensely impactful and powerful, is that every day that you walk into that hot, humid room and you're already thinking, oh dear, this is too hot, then you are practicing that muscle that will help you realize your visions and your goals in your entire life. But you're practicing it in a safe environment where you're not being judged. You don't need to worry about failing or anything like that. It's a very simple environment in which to practice that muscle. And that's what will overcome those negative thoughts and allow you to manifest in the world what it is you're up to, what you're about.
Right, because you're really doing it. It's not something somebody telling you, reading it in a book. You're doing it. It's a practice.
I mean, the determination to weather 90 minutes, and we can talk about a bit more of that. The determination to weather 90 minutes is exactly the same skill and debility and facet of your being as the ability to start a company, or start a family, or do anything bold, or anything amazing that it is that you want to do, or perform on stage. It's the same exact underlying.
The ingredients are the same.
So it doesn't really matter how you practice it, as long as you practice it, and so you can use it, have it, and know how to use it.
And know how to use it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good one, you guys.